Did anybody watch the Trump thing last night? I saw a tweet, and this was pretty much how I feel about it too. This is from Michelle Weekly on Twitter. It says, I don't care if you like Trump or not. I don't care that he doesn't deeply understand Bitcoin. But he's putting a spotlight on the debanking of an entire industry and on the politicization of the entire financial system. That was kind of the theme that I took away from it last night. And that's, there was a lot going on. It was put on by an altcoin. There, a guy with an NFT, whatever those things are called. Not Bored Apes, well, but one of those. So I knew that he was an altcoiner. This was the guy hosting it, and he's the one interviewing, asking the questions. He did a pretty good job, I guess, but not really. The whole thing was focused around altcoins. That's all they were trying to push out of Trump and the guys. Altcoin stuff, crypto. So definitely the wrong person to be doing this. But the main takeaways that I got from it was this. And I saw somebody else said that, Trump might be a shitcoiner or an altcoiner, the Trumps, but at least they're not communists. And at least they're not trying to take away your freedoms. Everything they talk about is sovereignty, freedom, debanking, moving away from the old system. That's what the theme was last night. If you listen to their words, that's what they were talking about. So the other part of it too is that this is my opinion on altcoins. And yes, the conversation got a little bit carried away in terms of NFTs. They were trying to talk about Trump's NFTs. It seemed like Trump didn't really want to talk about it, but there's all these different NFTs and I think they were talking about stable coins, cryptos. None of that matters. The thing that one of the guys was talking about was liquidity. So none of that matters. There could be a million different altcoins. There could be a million different NFTs. There could be everything. It has no impact on anything. As long as Bitcoin is here, and as Jeff Booth says, as long as it stays decentralized and secure, nothing else matters. And I think that a lot of people misunderstand that. Like these are going to be competitors of Bitcoin. It's not. The whole world is going to be repriced by Bitcoin. That could be the Trump World Liberty token. That could be Ethereum. That could be an NFT that you buy. It doesn't matter. You could issue as many of those as you want to, and there's as much liquidity as you want to. But nothing is going to change the fact that we now have a currency, the base layer of our financial system that everything is measured against is going to be Bitcoin. And that's the only thing that matters. As long as you have that, then it takes away everybody's ability to print. Because the only reason any of these projects or any of these ventures are going to have any value is if people know that they have Bitcoin. It's the same thing that's happening in the stock market right now. MicroStrategy has been the best performing stock over the last 4 years because they're holding Bitcoin. And you can see how much Bitcoin they have. It's public. And that's why people are buying MicroStrategy. They're not investing in the utility of MicroStrategy. They're buying it because of Bitcoin. They have Bitcoin. So if I wanted to launch a token and I have 2 Bitcoin backing it, who cares? People know that that's what's backing it. They can see it. And that's the ones who will actually be around. The ones who are very transparent with their Bitcoin holdings. So it doesn't matter how many tokens there are. It doesn't matter what they do. We have Bitcoin now. That's going to reprice everything, including all the altcoins. And if they really don't do anything, then they're going to fall to zero against Bitcoin. So people get so upset about all these different tokens and cryptos and the Trumps coming out with their own token, but none of it matters. They're on board with Bitcoin. And when you have that as your base layer to measure everything against, nothing else matters. Nothing else matters. It doesn't matter how much. It's the exact same with, if you hold Bitcoin and your prime minister, Justin Trudeau, goes and prints $2 trillion, you don't care because you hold Bitcoin. And they can print as much as they want. And over time, that will just continue trending towards zero. If they have no Bitcoin and they're printing more money, their currency will fall compared to Bitcoin. And that's how everything will be. Currencies, altcoins, real estate, shares, everything will fall in comparison to Bitcoin. And the only ones that do well will be the ones who hold Bitcoin on their reserve. And that's what people will be investing in. So I think that as Bitcoiners, I think we have to move away from this utopia concept of like everybody's only going to own Bitcoin. That's not the case, and it doesn't matter if they do. It really doesn't. Bitcoin is the measuring stick. That's what everything's going to be repriced in. It doesn't matter if everybody's using it or not. So that's the main takeaway that I wanted to share, and I think we really have to switch our mindset around that too. I personally, this show is called The Bitcoin Journey. Bitcoin is the only one worth value. Other things will be used. Other things will be used for different utilities, for liquidity. But there's only one Bitcoin. And as long as Bitcoin is there and it stays decentralized and secure, then nothing else matters. That's the beauty of Bitcoin. Nothing else matters. So just in terms of the, was there anything else to share on there? I had one more here. This is what it was. And this is from the same guy. Never heard of this Not Grubles before, but we're going to follow him. This is the same guy who said this, Not Grubles. I think we're following him now, or her. What happened here? Hold on. Hold up. What happened here? We back? We back, Arn? Okay, well that was timely cut out there. So let's start this again. They, in terms of the Trumps, may shitcoin, but at least they're not stealing away your Bitcoin. Your freedom of speech, your right to firearms. They're not introducing price controls for sustenance. They're not mandating overpriced EVs. They're not killing nuclear energy. The list goes on and on and on. And it's true. Don't let yourself get so wrapped up with this shitcoin. This is how I look at it. So they talked about their new token for World Liberty Financial. And most people won't give a shit about this. That's okay. It's still worth talking about. But they said it's not a security, but they are complying with the SEC, which means that you have to be an accredited investor to own this governance token. 63% will be sold, 17% will be given as user rewards, and 20% will be given as team compensation. And people lost their minds over that. They're like, what? These guys are rolling out this shit coin and they're giving 20% to themselves? Have you looked at any company in history before? What happens? You start a company, you give the shares to the people who put money in, put their time in. They have some sort of equity there. That's how every company in existence has ever worked before. And it's a governance token. It doesn't sound like they're going to be using it to trade back and forth or to sell. It's essentially just like a share in this new venture. Am I going to buy one? No. But I don't think that there's anything sketchy about it at all. It's a governance token. So if you want to have a say in how this venture works, then you can buy a token if you're accredited and if you have enough money to do it. I'm sure they'll go for an insane amount of money. But they said that it's not made to be bought and sold and traded. So that's kind of how I see it. And I think that, with the governance tokens, Arnie's being something else out there. It doesn't sound like there's any yield. It doesn't sound like there's any staking. It doesn't sound like there's any airdrops, stuff like that. They're not increasing the supply. So this to me just sounds like a normal structure of a company that's on digital, on the blockchain. So I feel like everybody who's really butthurt about that either has Trump derangement syndrome or they don't really understand how companies work. But at the end of the day, it does not matter. I guarantee you that this venture will have Bitcoin. That's what will make the currency stronger. And they talked about some stablecoin stuff too. And they talked about the banking system. And I think it was Don Jr. who said, they were talking about the banks and how pretty much they've just become totally useless in the process now because we have the ability to go around them. That's the whole point of this, right? So I think that he said that banks nowadays, they do things to make it look like they're adding value to the process, but all they're doing is slowing things down. Holy, where'd you come from? Where'd you come from? All they're doing is slowing things down, right? It's a very inefficient system. I think that anybody listening to the show would agree with that. That they don't do anything. Bankers nowadays, they do nothing. That we have the technology to basically get rid of 90% of them or more. They pretend they're adding value, but all they're doing is slowing things down and stealing fees from your bank account. So they're trying to build something to go around that. I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know what it'll look like in a year from now, 5 years from now, 20 years from now. I don't. But they understand that the banking system is broken. It's slow. It's inefficient. And they're trying to build something that people can use and have access to outside of that. And I think that there is a huge demand for that. Because and this is actually an example that happened in my personal life this week. So I don't want to get into too many details, obviously, but there was somebody trying to buy a house. They made, let's say, $100,000 a year. Good job. But they could not get a mortgage because they screwed up their credit rating like 10 or 15 years ago. So they have money, they have a good paying job, but they can't get access to a mortgage because of the old system and how it's rigged against the little guy. So if you had something like this and say, you have this World Liberty Financial or whatever the platform is, and you got $10,000 in Bitcoin, you put it up, they give you a loan without asking any questions. There's nobody there who can say yes or no. You just put in your amount that they need and they give you financing for that. And that changes everything. It doesn't discriminate against anybody for something that they did 15 years ago. All right, we got a couple comments here. My Path to Fire says the great thing about Biddy is that it removes the middleman. Exactly. And you know what? So does a lot of the cryptos. Truly. You don't need a middleman with a lot of these cryptos. And yes, we need Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the key to everything. And as long as we have Bitcoin, that's the only thing that matters. But you have this technology now, you have these different cryptos, these different ventures that are coming up where you don't need the middleman anymore, whether that's financing, like I was talking about, for people who can't get access to financing in the old system. Stop thinking in the sense of that we're going to have this Bitcoin and in 10 years from now, everybody's going to be on a Bitcoin standard. The only thing we're going to be using is Bitcoin. Nobody's going to have any debt. I mean, yeah, it's possible, but it's also very unlikely. So the Bitcoin here, though, is the key. And I know I've said that 10 times in the last 10 minutes, but I really want to drive that home. And AD says, either way, this puts eyes on Bitcoin and the failed financial system that otherwise wouldn't have paid any attention to. Exactly. Many people will be set on their own Bitcoin journey with this, including the Trumps. So the Trump, let's say they go ahead with this token, the governance token. If it's not backed by anything real, nobody's going to buy it. or they might have to start, but over time, if it's not actually backed by Bitcoin or anything of value, it's going to go to zero. Just that's with everything. With everything. So yes, the Trumps could issue their own token, but unless it's backed by Bitcoin that people can verify themselves and see that that's what they have on reserve, nobody's going to want to have it. They're going to want Bitcoin instead. And the whole world, unless you can outperform Bitcoin with your company, everybody's just going to get Bitcoin instead, which is why it's going to be so valuable. We don't need everybody using it, but we need it to measure everything.